Good afternoon, all. Here we begin our most awaited panel discussion on AI based entrepreneurship. We have a distinguished panel of experts today with us. Let me introduce them to you. The moderator of the session is Dr. C. Jayashankar Prasad, Director, DCS MAT. The panelists are Dr. Brijesh Madhavan, CEO, Curvelogics Advanced Technology Solutions Private Limited, Mr. Muthumanikavel Swaminathan, Lead Data Scientist, Cognizant United Kingdom, Ms. Geeta Palmani, Founder, Vishwavidya IT and Business Consulting Firm, Tamil Nadu, Mr. Niaz Mohammed, Co-Founder, Neural Craft. I welcome you all and I invite Dr. C. Jayashankar Prasad to take over the discussion.
That's okay. We'll start with that and then probably have a clap later. Okay. Yes. Okay. So good afternoon. One of the toughest jobs for us is to keep you all awake, right? And since you have all chosen to sit behind, at least the 3 rows behind, so we hope you will all be listening and be awake on this. Now, we have a very good set of panelists to share their experience with you, and the topic is also of interest. Maybe post ChatGPT times, everyone is talking about various aspects of AI and other stuff. More interesting would be to listen to your questions or probably answer your questions. Maybe halfway through this, we'll put it across to the audience to come at us with various questions on the subject which is being spoken about. Now, the structure that I'd like to follow is have a few minutes of initial introduction on the topic by all the panelists, and then we'll move on to some specific questions that we wanted to ask. And I have a couple of questions more specific into entrepreneurship because that is the theme of your of this particular session. So I'd initially like to start with all the panelists on the basic question as to what is this animal called AI? AI means many things for us. It's a very composite term. And what exactly I mean by it may not be what you mean by that. Right? The cognition part of human beings, like what are thinking or part of the human being, when it is taken out of you and you not have to put effort into it, that being done at any level, any activity of human, this thing can be termed as a artificial intelligence. That we didn't have to put in an effort, somebody else is putting it. Now, what exactly is this huge set of words or this entire spectrum of activities called AI? And how is it impacting your day-to-day lives, which is like a very common thing for most of us, but I thought we'll set the context with our panelists from that point forward. So going by the tradition of ladies first, I think I'll pass it on to you and then we'll move on from there on.
Oh, I didn't expect that. Thank you. Okay. See, the term intelligence, irrespective of whether it is for human or for machines, it is a complex term, right? It's what is intelligence for a human being? Can any one of you define in one statement? That's a problem with me, right? So I've been a coach for the past 12 years, so my interest in asking questions doesn't stop at all. I apologize for that. But anybody who wants to volunteer and give me an answer for what's human intelligence? What would you, when will you say somebody is intelligent? Who's an intelligent person? Somebody who sits in the panel? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. We are not any more intelligent than you, right? We have some expertise in certain area and we are able to connect information from various walks of life and solve certain problems. That's exactly is happening in artificial intelligence also. That's how I see it, at least, right? So the problems could be as simple as how do I write a interesting email for this particular audience, or it could be like, okay, how do I create a car that does not have a driver, right? Different type of intelligence. A writer and a driver, they are not related. These both are human intelligence. So basically, any intelligent work that is done by a human being, if it is done by a non-human being. I call that as artificial intelligence. Who should I pass it on to?
Rajesh, I think want to.
The other side of
Yeah, you pass it.
you have a.
So
So,
yeah.
Niaz is more relatable to a lot of youngsters, so he might be able to tell. But just to add on to what she said, that's a real way of good way of putting it. Like if you write from data to information to inferences, conclusion, and a response. So that's what you do. But what I actually wanted to ask was the different
layers.
types of
Yeah.
artificial intelligence we are talking
Oh,
about.
sorry, I missed that. I can add to it with everybody's done.
No problem. So one of the I don't come from a CS background, right? I had a BTech in electrical engineering, and I learned things essentially on the fly from the internet, right? So very different from all of the distinguished panels here. But when I started out learning AI, one of the funniest definitions of AI that Brijesh told me was AI is whatever has not been achieved yet, right? So there is always AI somewhere in the future. It's not here. Everybody, when you see ChatGPT for 2 weeks, you're excited about it, and the third week is like, oh, this is just writing text, not thinking, all of that. But the technical definition is probably systems that behave rationally, right? So we went about thinking, acting rationally, and all of that, right? So final definition I think is close to, and maybe Brijesh can correct, right? Systems that behave rationally given a situation. That's how a writer and a driver and something that plans your data center efficient, I mean, power management, uh, all of those things, what is common is that they act rationally based on what data they've seen, what they can compute in the foreground. If they're playing Go, they still make the next best move, right? So that is what AI generally is. And then there's, like, you probably know, there is machine learning and AI, two very often mixed up terms. And AI is the bigger umbrella, right? All AI systems don't need data to be trained in, right? Some of them will just have certain minimal programming associated with it, and they will start acting rationally. A very common example is, if you played video games, all of the characters other than you are NPCs, non-playable characters, right, in video games. And these are controlled by AI agents. We never know about it. Even in Pac-Man, you have all of these other enemies coming and eating all of these things and trying to eat you. All of that is AI, right? And we never thought of it as AI because it has always been there in front of us, right? That's AI. Self-driving cars are AI, but they require a ton of information, right? Tesla is using 10 cameras and then using all of that data feed from all 10 cameras to learn what the situation is. Is there a stop sign in front of me? Is that just a simple red shops board? I don't have to stop. Is there somebody who's waiting to jump over me? Is the car behind me trying to overtake me? So this requires a lot of data, right? And that's machine learning, and that's generally, and it's trained on what the driver is doing. So not only is it seeing exactly what is around, it's also trying to learn, okay, what is the driver doing at the situation? What are other drivers who are similar to who have done similar things in the past? Is that the best optimal mode? Did somebody do a hard brake, right? Did it hit somewhere? So from all of that, it's taking feedback and learning. So machine learning is based on data. It's a subset of AI. And then inside AI, there's another thing which is also kind of interrelated to this, is called deep learning, right? And deep learning is very particular, is that you're using an architecture called neural network, right? There are various different types of neural networks, but what is common is this: if you use this architecture, people say it's deep learning, right? So AI, machine learning, deep learning, these are three different things, and you probably have a picture now. And it's basically trying to make systems act rationally. So I hope that.
So I think, what are the different kinds of projects that you are? What are the different kinds of projects that you are looking at, and in your exposure, what are the entire spectrum that has come across?
Thank you, sir. So I've been working on several projects, not only for a specific domain, from starting from financial domain to oil and gas, and then for food industry, retail industry. We are working in different domain on different projects and solve different problems. So if you take artificial intelligence, it is just a simple term, but people used to say different term. If you ask me about artificial intelligence, it is just perceive the environment and act on it. Perceive the environment. The simplest example, for artificial intelligence is our air conditioner. It perceives the environment and then it reduces the temperature. Basically, it keeps constantly monitoring the temperature and then it reduces the temperature. Similar way, if you take car, you mentioned automation car, the several cameras, it perceives the environment like the world, and then it is keep on parameterizing and then keep on adjusting its levels. Like it's like a proactive and a reactive measures. So if you consider artificial intelligence, there are very simple terms, but people use multiple jargons and then making confusing the people. Like even if you take myself, I am an agent. I am perceiving this world. My eyes is an actuator, and then it sees something and then it try to do something. Like for example, if suddenly something comes said, then I used to move away from that. So similar way, artificial intelligence, when we use for oil and gas, what we do is like if some gas is leaking, then we perceive the environment using some actuators, IoT devices, and then because some of the smells we can't do it, and also temperature variations from the current temperature, and then after the gas leak, there is a different temperature. So these kind of things we use the image processing, and then we identify it because these are poisonous gases. So that is something we will do. And also even for petroleum, right? So earlier, if they wanted to the stock holders, if they wanted to see um, the stock of the petrol, they use flight to identify it because they have the mark outside. But nowadays we are using the cameras, thermal cameras, because the temperature is slightly different. So these are some of the examples that we are using in AA for food. Pizza. How many of you know pizza? So for pizza, right, 1 minute we are producing 80 pizzas from a famous retailer. With 80 pizza, no one can able to identify the fault in the pizza. Like there will be pizzas will be burned and then shape will be different, and then there is a lump on the cheese. So these are something we can't do it, but mathematically we can do it using artificial intelligence. And we have a robotic arm. So if it is burned, it automatically do the QC. So it is again perceiving the environment and acting on top of it. For that, we need intelligence. So we are incorporating that intelligence in the machine.
Rajesh, coming to you, that's what Sir talked about is like making your machines more intelligent by sensing it. So, be it any kind of sensors, he spoke about the gas sensors, temperature sensors, whatever. So that makes the machine look like intelligent. That's a very straight case, sir. But then, when you come to AI-powered bot or something where some human interaction is there, then the activity gets complex. Like we were talking about education. If I have to sense a student and give their pedagogy or a learning path accordingly, it becomes complex. If you have to sense an emotion, it becomes complex. So, in your experience, like what are the areas that you have worked on, and how do you think that moves on?
So let me also start with what artificial intelligence means for different people, right? Dr. Jay was asking, he was mentioning that there are so many different components. It's like a broader umbrella, right? We all use it, for granted that, so we give this definition of anything intelligent, right? That is synthetic, which means not human brain or animal brain or any of that, right? That's what artificial intelligence is, right? That's the simplest definition. I was working with this company, HP. HP is one of the earliest creators of calculators. I think of it at a time when there was no calculators. That was AI for them, right? And like Nia said, when calculator became commonplace thing, means you see it everywhere. If I asked someone of you, right, before this whole session started, if I asked you, do you think AI calculator is AI? 90% of you would have said no. No, but at a point in time earlier, when it could do things that human couldn't do, faster, right? It looked smarter, right? Calculator was AI, right? But over time, things changed, right? We had the ability actually to go on to perceive, like he said, right? it could perceive objects in front of us. It could understand language. Language understanding just happened now. It has been there for 20, 30 years, right? But it has become phenomenally good, like human would understand. Only, I think, like probably 4 years, right? And last year was the best year. So, but that said, that's still not complete AI, right? Large language models and chatbots are not complete AI. Right? Think of a honeybee. Honeybee can actually travel hundreds and hundreds of meters away, and it can come back. What is the size of the honeybee's head? It's it's a fraction of a pinhead. No, our drones can't do that, right? Honeybees are intelligent. It's not just humans, right? When you're talking about artificial intelligence, it's not just humans. Right? Anything that can do intelligent, decisions. A rat can actually navigate through very complex mazes, which probably human cars can't do. Human-driven cars can't do, right? So they're all on the artificial intelligence side. One thing that has changed in the last 10 years is about perceiving, right? It can perceive image, it can understand image. It could perceive language, it could understand language. But there is one big thing that is still lacking, right? So when Nias and me have discussions, right, and we talk about all these tech leaders from Facebook and Google and all of them putting out their perspective, right? These are all controversial, right? Each of them have their own perspective, which is contrary to what another leader would say, right? They all have very differing opinions, right? One of the things is, right now, the current language models are not even still good enough, right? Because it doesn't have the ability to understand physics, right? When you bounce a ball, how much would it rise? It doesn't have that, right? Because it has not been trained with that kind of data. It has been only trained with language. But there is a whole other school of people who think that, language has these information, it has nuances, right? So to a great extent, it's true. But it's very bad at mathematics. It's very bad at physics. They are improving on it. It's getting better, right? And the next wave is going to be letting the machines actually look at videos, right? We can see that hints of that when the chief data scientist from Facebook has been talking about it. Language models doesn't have certain elements that humans have, right? Like a kid can, look at a candle and he can learn many things, like there's a flame there, you shouldn't be touching, and all of those kind of things, right? But a lot of times LLM might not have, if it is not seen it at all, right? So they're talking about digesting videos like YouTube and all of it, right? So that you can see and then it can learn physics out of it. I think this is the next big wave that's going to come this year probably. Yesterday there was a paper that was released, right? Not a paper, there's a benchmark report that was released. Right? Do you know how well AI can write programs? Any idea in terms of percentage? Right? When people did the benchmarking, right, with GPT 3.5, which is what your ChatGPT, with unpaid ChatGPT version is powered by, right? That can do with like 40% accuracy. It can make mistakes, right? And then people figured out that using the same ChatGPT, right, using existing technologies where you can iterate through and do all of it, it is 95% accurate. Right? So AI is growing at such fast pace, right? And answering Dr. Jay's question on what we do, I do a ton of things, right? And we have service projects, right? CurveLogix has a service project, right? And I also run another company called Data Science Academy. There, one of the challenges we've seen is when we are talking about this, right? Some of you would have missed out a lot of things, right? Because we all have very different attention spans, right? And some trigger word would have got you to pay attention. Some of you would have, like ma'am said, after your lunch, you're dazed, right? All that could happen, right? So people have very different paces. People have very different capacity to absorb, right, knowledge, right? So we actually we have built one bot actually, right, which will teach you. It's an AI tutor bot, right? But the specialty of that is it will continuously monitor. Like you all know that Instagram, you're addicted to Instagram for what reason? It gives you exactly the content that you like, right? And it triggers the dopamine in you, right? And you're actually addicted to it, right? So you can actually gauge behaviors, right? For 10, 15 years, that technology has been matured, right? So we are trying to put that to use in an education sector, right? Where the AI will teach, but teach it in a way where the student will get engaged, right? Does he like a meme? Push a meme there, right? He can't sit through half an hour. He likes 3 minute kind of knowledge snippets that has to be given, right? Give it to him. He would check his WhatsApp or some instant messaging application, right? While he goes for a tea, and that's when he's most relaxed. Give it to him at that time, right? That can be done, right? And we are actually doing that, right? So it's called AI tutor bot. So we use large language models, right, to create content, customize it, hyper personalize it, depending on who the student is, right? Some people would want to be taught as if they are fifth graders, right? We do that, right? Some people, it will look silly for them, right? Then you give them very complex, deep knowledge snippets, right? So that is one thing that we do. We also do other things like this is a product of our own, right? We also do service, right? So we go on to help people build their products. Right? One of it is actually a doctor bot, right? So there's a chain of hospitals, right? Who wants to set up or who want to build actually a product that is like an AI doctor, and its purpose is not to be used by common people because there are not policies in place, right? So what they're asked is, can you actually advise a junior doctor, right, who is in the ICU, and he has no access to a senior doctor in the middle of the night? The senior doctor, who is a surgeon, actually is been doing multiple surgeries, and he goes back and he wants some rest, and he's not accessible at that time, right? Can the junior doctor take that advice of the senior, instead of senior doctor, can it take AI's advice? And it's possible, right? And all of these companies are actually investing. Why are the doctors investing in AI? It should kill their job. No, it sounds like that. But no, they're all using it as tools, right? Some years back, we talked about, we've heard computers would steal away bank jobs. That's not how it is. It's accelerated. It's become so big now, right? Our GPay is the ultimate form of computation that we use for bank-related transaction. No, that's the same impact I think AI would have, right? And then we can see in education, we can see in medicine, we can see it in law, right? All these white-collar jobs as well, right? Audit. Me and Yas are working on actually a product that is AI auditor. Auditing is a very, very stressful, difficult task, right? We are working on something like that. So these are the things that we are working on. There's ample opportunities. Me and Yas keep talking about this. The amount of new things that is coming is overwhelming, even for people who are practicing. We can't keep track of it. Last 1 year has been crazy, right? So newer and newer models are coming in, right? And we are going to see things that we have not even imagined. The kind of products that's going to come, right, are going to be things that we have never even imagined. Think of it, when the internet happened, when social media happened, there are so many new things that emerge, right? New businesses and all of it. That's the same thing that's going to happen with AI, right? So if you have a crazy idea, go and try it out, right? You might become a unicorn. We don't know, right? I think you should do that. Thank you.
I'll come to Madam Geeta. Like, which are the? Yeah, I'll give you this. The question which I'd like to pose to you right now is, Brijesh spoke about quite a few sectors like healthcare, education, even pharma could be a sector, legal is a sector, accounting is a sector. So there are numerous sectors that are coming up. But where do you find out people for this kind of jobs? You need both domain skills. You also need, you know, other skills of programming and other stuff.
Uh, Actually, that's the most difficult aspect of hiring. See, almost not just now, right? I am in the industry since 1996. From that time onwards, whatever new technology comes in, we always had difficulty in finding people, right? And even Brijesh was talking about, okay, I had to train people to um, create or develop those people for who will be here with me, right? So that has been a challenge. Now we are also talking about this pie-shaped people, T-shaped people and all, right? The same individual who has development experience, testing experience, product management experience, right? So the entire software development life cycle, different aspects they need to know. And there are different technologies that is coming almost every day. As I speak, there could be some 200 odd new technology coming in, and there are various sectors which you talked about, right? Even within the sectors there are different verticals, right? Product development, manufacturing, within manufacturing, manufacturing planning, actual production and quality control, supply chain. There are so many things that are there, right? How do you find a person who has all the skills that you need? That has been the challenge always. It will continue to be the challenge. In fact, the in the recent McKinsey study that was done in 2023, more number of AI players. It could be startups like yours, or it could be Google, or it could be McKinsey, or any of these companies, established players. All of them feel that it is hard to find AI skilled people. We just saw what do we mean by AI, right? Do we mean people who know how to write AI programs, or do we mean people who can formulate the problem for AI to be solved, or do we mean people who can take a already existing AI system, scale it, integrate with the rest of the systems I have in the organization? What do we mean? So that's a complex question as well, right? So the answer is for any kind of organization, you reskill the people you have, and when you hire people, train them to whatever skills you need. So what many organizations are doing, see, based on my consulting experience, what I'm seeing is people define the skill set needed in terms of their hard skills, in terms of coding and stuff like that, and cognitive skills, problem solving, critical thinking, analytical thinking, etc., and interpersonal skills, and the domain skills. So they define that is required for each of the roles, and each person get to decide what role do they want to develop into, and how can I develop those skills. And organizations are making those platforms, learning platforms, more available. And of course many of these platforms are AI enabled, based on my own speed, my own interests, and they all mimic the behavior of YouTube and your gaming systems. Oh, Geeta, you have done this particular course, you may be interested in this as well. Your friends are learning this, you may be interested as well, right? So such learning platform are also made available. um, and there are also the internship programs many organizations are doing. And I recently have heard about what is happening in Canada. Maybe we should, and whatever Muthu is doing for his students as well. So the intermediary bodies, they connect with various industries and identify potential internship possibilities, and then they put it up for the interns to choose from. So they are the connection between corporate players or industry players and the academia. So you get an opportunity to look at those internship possibilities, automate it or cognitize it, whatever is the level, right? And then show it as a demo to the potential employer. And if they like your product, they take it. So some of you in the morning, you said some of you are developers, right? If you are still in college and you are trying to learn development, please do projects uh, and develop yourself. Don't just go by memorizing the programs or outsourcing it, as it's happening in many places.
Uh, Shubhita, I think we have seen that the investment into all these AI projects are happening at a corporate level, because it's going to be very costly creating all these models and other stuff. So how much, like from your own company experience, how much are you spending on creating a new product, or when you get a new domain or a new project? So there's no precedence to look at and do that. So how do you approach it actually?
It's a good question. So, continuous learning. So, what we usually do, we assess the market. So, assess the market in the sense like what are the projects pipeline. So, as you see, generative AI, it started picking up. So, the the customers they were looking at the projects on the generative AI. So, what we do is like we get the resource get ready, like a pool of resource, and then even though they are working in a different projects, then we started giving them like a product, small product. So the leaders will assess some of the use cases on their own. So we have a Udemy, we have other courses, there are other courses are there. They will simultaneously do that, but we also have our own kind of training mechanism. Like we assign a use case and then we will give them a time to develop that. Like for example, it will take some any small use case in AI. It will take, we estimate from 12, 10 to 14 weeks. We can come up with a small MVP. So when we assess the market, where the trending is going on, McKinsey and other papers, they tell us like this much of amount they are going to invest. Say for example, in by 2030, AI is good. AI, for AI, they are the private and then government. They are going to invest $100 trillion. So when they say $100 trillion, there is a share for us. So we will assess what areas they are going to invest. So generative AI, legal, drug, and also we will identify the customer base, like a high value chain customers like a Rolls Royce, AstraZeneca. So these are some customers. They mainly focus on generative AI text based models. So we create a small use case. What we read some challenges, and then we will assign to the small team, and then they will come up with a small use case. So when we go to the customer, we showcase this is our capability, even though there is a problem for them, but still we were having a small idea. So it is, this is not a new one. What Mr. Nandan Neelangani has did. So when he goes for an negotiation, he understands the company problem, and then he prepare for the problem, and then he goes with the solution for their company. Even though he is an outside from the company, he gave us a small gist of what we can achieve it. Similar way, we take each one of the different domains, and then we consistently we do it. The biggest part is like younger generation. They can they always given one like they move forward one step ahead because they are very curious in learning. Because those days we need lot of softwares and then licenses to learn. Now it's everything is open source. So whenever they get an time, they are passionate about what they are doing. They wanted to achieve. They are very aggressive, and then they want to learn more. So if we give a small spark, they will fire on their own, and then they will bring us a product. So off the shelf, we always have every 2 weeks we will have a demo on different domains, and we always keep equip all the resources. Even though they work on different projects, they will be ready. As a leaders, we have to make sure that they are consistently being monitored and then trained and then being mentored properly.
One point of interest would be, have you been able to productize any of your projects like which you have completed so far?
Yeah. So some of the projects I can't tell, but I'll tell I will tell one of the example. So when Gen AI came in, hit last year, then all of them have started working small projects. So with this project, the team around 16 people they worked in a product, and then they developed a small POCs. Using that POC, we backed a bigger product in the airliner.
Okay.
So that helped a lot.
Sure. Okay. Yes, I think before I open it up for the questions, you represent the younger generation. So, and he is also a person who has left a regular job to become an entrepreneur from the start, right? From the college, and that too in AI. So, what do you see as an opportunity for entrepreneurs in AI for the future? We'll come around after this and open it up.
Yeah. So so we are still figuring this out, right? Every day you see a new company that's opening up a chatbot, and you see people who write specific prompts for another chat interaction, right? And ChatGPT has opened up a GTP store, which is basically somebody put in a prompt saying act like a lawyer, and then give advice, relationship advice, or whatever advice to the person who's asking it. So um, there is we believe that there is a much broader world beyond this text box and chat interface, right? There are systems that you can actually that will kind of agents that will look at your data as it comes in and gives you advice and provide you the tools beyond text to look at your data and then find evidence for some of those things. So what we are building is like an AI auditor. So you don't have to say much, right? It probably knows all of your policies. Somehow you've told it once, and anytime it gets a bunch of files, it looks across those files and see if okay, is the name of the applicant same on all of these things? Is their name on the date of birth and the passport the same as that in their bank application and all of that, right? And then it'll come up and surface things and say, hey, I don't think this guy qualifies for this because you probably wanted this criteria to be fulfilled, but that is not so, right? So what are the interfaces going to look like? It's probably going to be very different from pure chat that we see today, right? And a lot of companies are now so you've all seen the blockchain wave, right? When everybody was claiming to be a blockchain company, and suddenly there was the AR/VR wave. Everybody was an AR/VR company, and now everybody is an AI company, right? No fires. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's it. So beyond this, surface level companies that have come up, everybody's putting a prompt and an API behind it and the user interface and saying we have an AI product. We think there's going to be a lot of such companies that are going to be killed immediately, because the next thing that Microsoft Office is going to release is probably something on the side that will help you write better letters, better invitations, and all of that, right? So all of these companies who are claiming to write an RFP or a better resume is going to go out of business, right? That's going to be part of the Microsoft Office suite, right? Same thing for whatever things that you're doing internally. All of these companies, all of these products that you're using right now will have AI integration, and at some level, every company will be an AI company, right? So you can actually transform if you're in the business where you're already inside a company. You're wondering, oh, should I start an AI company? No, you can actually figure out where AI comes in and then play with that. Or if you really want to explore, there are tons of possibilities that are not actually unlocked. We probably want to figure out what is the pain point that people are having. Do we have the technology to at least explore those problems today that did not exist 3 years ago, right? And then start with an adventurous explorative mind. I think there's going to be a lot of companies. And one thing about Kerala and India is that we have a lot of people who are in the software field, right? And we've been historically seen as a cost cutting center, right? But now is the time to actually step up our game, because it's a level playing field, right? AI and all of this LangChain LLMs have only been here for the last 2 years, and everybody's an equal, right? You don't need a PhD to start using those technologies. The playing field is actually quite level. You can rise and become one of the unicorns, and that's what we believe. Um, you don't need a 100-member company. You can start with a 10-member company who can do as much as a 100-member company could do 3 years ago, right? Because you have ChatGPT. Right now, I don't look up a lot of questions on Stack Overflow. I'll say, Fits module, I want to merge PDFs, give me the Python code, and we'll spit out the whole thing, right? Copy paste it, and I have it, right? Some of you already have it integrated in your IDE. You have, whole websites that you can create, illustrations to your blog post or your LinkedIn post that you can create without anybody, without searching for licenses, music that you can create on the fly. So it's become very, very easy to run a much smaller company that delivers quite a lot more. The only thing that you have to be careful is what value am I adding? Who is going to be my end customer? And do I understand their full pain point? And am I providing a solution that will actually, add value to that? Or am I just, going to be a, first company? Is it a shallow thing that is going to be outdated by the next feature that that ChatGPT releases, or can we survive all of that by being a specialist? Right? That is where it's at.
Dr. Jay, can I just add? So I just want to add what Niaz keeps saying, right? So like Niaz said, there's a whole lot of shallow stuff, right? Everybody, I want to build a chat, I want to build an AI. What comes to your mind is a chat GPT, right? And everybody thinks of building a product like that, right? So it shouldn't. You should actually deviate from that, right? You put business on the front, business problem on the front, and then see how if there is a smart component there, it's going to be solved by AI, right? You shouldn't be actually trying to. I want to build an AI. It shouldn't be your starting question, your starting objective, right? You identify problems, right, and inevitably you will find so many areas where AI would come handy, right, in solving it, right? And while choosing that, right, like uh, me and Niaz keep having this discussion, Niaz keeps saying, we pick up things that are very tough to solve. Right? The problem should be tough to solve, right? But yet, with the resource you have, right? You have ICFOSS and Startup Mission and the government funds and all of that. With all of that resource and the university connects and all of that, with that, what is that you can best do, right? Take the first plunge, right? If you are aspiring to be an entrepreneur, take the first plunge. You will learn it, right? Dr. J was asking knowledge and domain knowledge and all of that, right? Domain knowledge is very difficult, but you will figure it out if you're an aspiring entrepreneur. You will go and connect through LinkedIn, through people. You will partner. You will try to bring people in, right? So that is one part, right? Second thing is, do you have that skill? Right? Maybe not, but you take the first plunge and it will work, right? And then what is that you should be developing? That you should be developing. You should be solving real big problems, right? Not like what Nia said. You would start working on something and Microsoft would come and wipe it out tomorrow, right? So like Nias has always been advocating, right? Take tough problems with the limited resource that you have. Can you solve it, right? I think that would be the best thing to, if you're planning to get into entrepreneurship, right, and build an AI product. Right, so thank you.
See, the point I would like to add is not when you want to create your own company, but then you have an idea to solve an existing company's problem. For example, you are thinking, oh, okay, so I can add a small module for a driverless car, right? So people think, okay, you have to be a big manufacturer to solve that particular problem, not necessarily. See, I'll tell you, I was in Ford Motor Company before I joined McKinsey. The driverless car, it's nothing but a meeting room that is moving. That's how the organization thought, right? So anything that you can do in a meeting room in an automated manner, how your doors are closing, how you are monitoring your temperature, how you are monitoring the drowsiness of the driver, alertness of the driver, and the mood swings of the driver, and so on and so forth. We tested them in a conference room, right? So if you have an idea, and of course you have innovation labs like ICFOSS, right? So you have a lot of devices which you can use to create that prototype. And then you productize it, or talk to companies like Ford or Nissan or all of these manufacturing companies. They also run hackathons, right? So you can participate in them and share your ideas. And in fact, these companies have internal hackathons for such problems as well. And that's a good way for productizing your ideas. And also, when you don't have a predecessor who has done it before, can you do a driver alertness program on a running car where the driver is really sleeping? Not possible, right? So you test that in a safe environment. In a service company, you build those prototypes and show it to other people for capability showcasing. In a product company, you test them on simpler, uh, harmless environments. It's the same use case and it's the same case study, but you test it in a harmless or a controlled environment so that it is real. You are confident of the accuracy levels and the predictability of the model. That's how.
So, just as Sir mentioned, tough to solve, easy to solve. So, how do you differentiate between tough to solve and easy to solve? Okay, there is an easy thumb rule. So, tough to solve, you have a problem, you are trying to work on that product. and then you are asking your colleague. If he is answers for your queries, then it is easy to solve. Whether he might have solved, somebody might have solved. But if you are keep on asking the same question to multiple people, nobody is having an answer, then you are going on the right pace. Then you jump into internet, try to find out an answer. If you are not getting an answer, that is a problem you need to solve. That is tough to solve. Then easy to solve, it is easy to identify. Everybody is having answer. There is no point in going and keep on doing that. This is one thing I want to add. And little bit of icebreaker of the calculator. So calculator, Geeta madam morning mentioned about, Sam mentioned about calculator. So I met one of the professor, and then he was doing the calculation again. And one fine day, he was around 95 years old, professor. His name is Dr. Ron Smith. He's a Scottish economist. And then what he said is like, if the calculator is not invented, the course what I studied, it took 4 years. Due to the invention of the calculator, they speed up the human brain calculation, because the repetitive task they did it in calculator, they reduce their economical viability age by 2.5 years. 2.5 years is very crucial. If you are going to go and sign for a mortgage agreement, 2.5 years is big one. Your loan amount will decrease. Your interest rate will decrease, and then your insurance will decrease. So those so many factors. See, the simple calculator reduced one human being's 2.5 years. You can see after the invention of calculator, how many millions of people studied the course, how many man hour has been saved in the world, and then they use the knowledge in a different area wisely. So similar way, you have to use the AI in a similar manner. Like don't, as a thumb rule, if you are going to do a repetitive task, assign to AI. If you are going to do a task intellectually, or you are trying to do it creatively, then use the AI. Okay.
So I'll open the floor for the audience. Are there any questions, or everyone is like, just to shake you up? Yeah.
My question is coming to AI-based product development or problem solving, compared to traditional software development or problem solving, there is many things are already understood. We are dealing with deterministic systems. But when it comes to AI, you have to do so much experimentation. There is always this question of explainability, and so you have to convince the client also where does the AI camera fails at certain times. So if you are going into that entrepreneurship journey, how do you deal with that approaching the problem? Is it same as that of the traditional way, or do you have any best practices or things to follow?
See, this has actually not been, it's not new, right? So we've had our careers in predictive modeling, right? If you look at whatever is done in predictive modeling is what AI is, right? So all your predictive modeling algorithms are machine learning algorithms, right? And there you're working with uncertainty. That you need machine learning. If it's a rule-based one, you don't need machine learning, right? If it's like 1 + 1 or E = MC square, you don't need machine learning. But when things are not clear, right, you want to unearth patterns in the data, right, which is full of, it has a lot of noise in it, right, or randomness, right? You're going to have uncertainty in terms of development also. So the model building, for example, is an iterative task, right? So for years, right, when somebody's providing a predictive modeling solution, right, unlike a regular development, they will have a buffer, right? So they will say, okay, anything, right? End of the day, time is money, right? One of the places where money is going to be sunk is people's time, hardware time, right? Like cloud and all of that, right? So we add a buffer there, like 30 to 40%. But it all depends on the data and all of it, right? We always add a buffer, right? So it's very difficult to estimate the amount of time, and it's a very iterative, right? You will not get it in the first run, right? And why is that? It is inherent problem. We are working with that kind of data. It has noise in it, right? And that's why we need to use this algorithm, right? So it's very different from your regular app or web or some SAP implementation or anything like that, right? You'll have to bring in this buffer time, right? Which means anything, money, time, infrastructure time, right? All of that you'll have to factor in. That's one thing I wanted to add.
I'll just add to Brajesh's, and your question is spot on. Is it like previously you had software development and software testing? Now with machine learning, can you have the same two phases, right? Um, what happens is in machine learning, you not only have the model but the whole system around it. If you look at the full-fledged architecture, and there was a Google paper around this, right? If you have like a big picture of all the different boxes that are related to your end-to-end service, the machine learning component is probably one small box that's like 1/50th of your entire thing, right? The rest of it is supporting architecture, and for all of those components the same thing applies. But for machine learning models, like you mentioned, it might have to go through extensive certain levels of testing. So instead of unit testing, integrated testing, and system tests, you will have like fairness tests, diversity tests. Is it saying something that it's not supposed to say, right? Is it biased towards one specific thing? There's a lot of tests happening on that side. I'd also say that even though the media would like to portray it as an increasingly big black box, most of the time we now have a lot of tools at our disposal to actually look at the data and understand why the models are saying certain things. I'll give you an example. So I was working with the Kerala Police Cyberdome, and one of the challenges was for us to build machine learning models that would detect certain type of violent images, right, and flag it, right. And this is on the darknet, so there's a lot of images such as that. And the problem is we were not allowed to see the data. So even though I was leading that ML team, right, I have never seen that data. So what we did was we had a proxy data set. We said, okay, classify bananas among a bunch of fruits, right? And we put the directory structure in such a way that they knew they can replace banana with the violent images, and the pipeline would run exactly the same, right? And in the end, we provided things like if something was flagged incorrectly, right? And you wanted to know why this message, why this image was flagged, right? We would provide a heat map on top of the image, right? So it will highlight the portion of the input image that will indicate why this image was classified. And from that, you could investigate, oh, this was always classified because there was a bed in the picture. And historically, all the images in the data set with beds are violent images. But a picture of a furniture, just the furniture of the bed is not a violent image. That it does not know. But seeing this heat map, they instantly knew that the bed is what triggered this thing, and they could go on to add and reiterate that data, right? So there are a lot of supporting tools now. It is becoming increasingly a little bit whiter than pure black box, and the kind of systems that we need in place. So for things like ChatGPT, people think that ChatGPT is an LLM. It is an LLM, but there are components before that and post the response, right? So any input that you give is ideally filtered, right? It is evaluated. Are you trying to do something malicious? Are you trying to jailbreak this thing? Are you giving personal information that shouldn't go into the LLM? So there are a lot of systems in there, and a lot of systems, as soon as the LLM generates, it has to identify, okay, is the LLM generating something bad, incorrect, politically, incorrect, and all of that. So a lot of those systems are, people are still identifying such systems, but it is being put out in the open in such a rapid pace that if you're following things closely, you can actually learn from the world's best people, the people who actually engineered these systems. So think of it like learning from Da Vinci and Isaac Newton. In our time, we never thought that would happen. So I learned in a convent college in Kerala, right? But I would have never thought that I could learn all of these things for free. And my career in AI is what when I started learning things, right? So everything was out in the open. I needed to do my homework, figure out what is the latest trend, what are the tools that people are using, why are they shifting between two tools, right? What are the things that I should consider when figuring out the data, and what should I watch out for in each of these use cases, right? So it is increasingly becoming open, and we know a little bit more than we knew a couple of years back.
Just to add to that, right? So unlike when somebody builds something proprietary, they want to keep it to themselves, like Microsoft, right? But this is a problem that affects the society, right? And every time they've come together, right? Facebooks and the Microsofts and all of them have come together to try and solve this problem. There is one example is actually there's a challenge in Kaggle, right, which will actually it's about identifying deep fakes, for example, right? And it's $1 million reward, right? And all of these people have come together to solve that problem, right? So anything about explainability or anything that is on the negative side of the AI, right? People usually come together, right? And one other thing is, right now there are very few tools, like he said, for computer vision, right? There are some really good ones that is emerging, right? But think of it, we can have agents with different persona. Right? If it's a AI that is supposed to be deployed in a social media, you can actually simulate that. So you will have AI itself, right, having different personas and then trying to see if it's a female gender, is there a bias towards female gender, right? Or some race related bias, right? All of that you can start simulating, right? We are going to see those kind of things emerging in the coming years, right? So that's going to happen.
So from the approach towards software development, there are multiple areas you will have to be careful. Scaling of a model, right? That's an important area to be tested. See, in a typical software development, once you have developed something, tested, integrated, and tested that integration, you are sort of set. I mean, of course, there can also be problems after that. But when it comes to AI models, when you scale to have a lot more data coming in, your system can behave completely differently. So you will have to do your testing once again. Recently, our research team, so we had a music learning system that is supported by AI. We tested it in Vienna by Square in Austria, and it worked really very well for one school. Now, the entire music schools in Austria, they want to use this particular product, but we are almost starting all over again. Okay, I mean, of course, we have a model. It worked for limited set of data. Now, the school regulation is coming in, government regulations are coming in, the individual preferences are coming in, the kind of parents we will have in different localities within Austria, that comes in. The economical background of parents come in. A lot of different dimensions come in. And how do you test for all of these influencers or factors? And how do you test for the biases which he talked about, right? So that is another complexity that is getting added when it comes to pure play software development, or let me put it this way, automation and cognitizing, right? So in these two areas, that's a difference. The other thing is cyber physical systems are more common these days. What I mean is the software systems which I developed when I joined as a developer, it was purely used on a computer. That's all. Okay, the computer may be connected to a network or it may be a standalone computer. That's all. But now our software is sitting in almost every single machine that camera has, this mobile has, the satellite has. You think of any equipment that is there in this room, everything has a piece of software, right? So testing the cyber physical systems, that has its own complexities. The mobile testers sitting in India, and how are they? I mean, will they have the same configuration as the mobile configuration of all the users sitting elsewhere? And how do you do it for a medical system? Will you be able to simulate all of it? So these kind of complexities are also there, and there are some simulation environments, but then long way to go. So these are the 2 points I wanted to add.
I just want to add one point. So this is a good question. So the how part is the biggest challenge to answer when you're working in AI. So my 2 cents is like, if you are working in structured data, stick with the basics. So any algorithm you can able to decode it. So any for structured data, you'll be able to explain with a smaller data set, like toy data set. If you understand the mathematical intuition of each of the algorithm, you can easily able to do it. Say, for example, I will go with the Magellana-based distance one. So we have trillion rows of data. Then we wanted to identify the outlier. So we calculated, we identified, but the how part, how you are able to identify the outlier, that is the biggest question. So the customer or the people who are given the task, they won't trust the output. So now what we have to do is like you have to decode the Magellan-based algorithm into step by step. There are 9, 10 steps are there. You input the data and do the calculation, and then you can show it. The another way, if you are going with a non-structured data, so you have to get the SME confident. So if you are doing a breast cancer classification, so we have to first set up the stage, and we have to give them, ask them to do it on their own, and to feed the data multiple ways, and then uh, identify the cancer, the classification properly, and then they will get one step confident. Then again they will come to the how part. Then we have to do a smaller prototype, like lines and circles and how it works. And then if we explain that they will catch it. So the fundamental is like, if we understand the basics of the algorithm, it is very easy to explain the how part. If you are not able to understand the basics of the algorithm, it is very difficult to explain them.
So, what's the role of open source in the case of AI-based startup or creating an application? Because we are dependent upon a proprietary company, right? But there are two sides. Ethical part is also there. We are dependent upon the company. If we are building a product, we are dependent upon that company. But the malicious, so when you see that Haystack or any other product, most of the results are dependent upon LLM, or nowadays the LAM is introduced. Large action models are recently introduced. So they are mostly dependent upon these pre-trained models. Some of them are malicious in nature as well, right? So how you seen that what is the future, how we can introduce open source in that particular field?
I will just start, and I think Nias is very passionate about this topic. Right? So, see, one thing that has emerged, right? If you look at DALI 2, right? There's a competing open source version of it. Right? Stable Diffusion, right? Somebody decided to put few $1 million of their personal money, right, and make it competitive enough so that the power is not just centralized somewhere, right? So the problem with AI is that there's going to be rift. The people, so there are three godfathers of AI, right? One of them is called Yoshua Benicio. He really decided not to go and join any company. Jeffrey Hinton joined Google, right? And Jan LeCun joined Facebook, right? And why he didn't join, right? Because he felt that there's going to be rift between poor and the rich, right? There'll be war between countries, right? Haves and have-nots, right? And this is not now. He decided like 10 years back, right? And that is happening, right? So and people are aware of it, and then so many people have slowly started pumping in money, right? Some of the successful AI companies are fully open source, right? Maybe Nias, you want to talk about a few of them?
Yeah. So okay, I'll also touch upon, it's easy to take for granted what is open source. We are so blinded to this that all of these LLMs are built on PyTorch and TensorFlow, right? Both of which are open source, right? And we were just talking about this. The moment September 23rd, 2022, right? OpenAI was the only company that had ChatGPT level of thought, right? It has the only company in the world with that service. Less than 1 year later, it was open sourced by Meta, right? Meta had Llama come in, and then they released Llama 2. You know why they did it so fast? Because they thought that very few companies will have that power concentrated with them, right? Like Google and OpenAI and Microsoft. Yeah, and they were fighting. Actually, there was a whole lot of legal battle that said they wanted to regulate AI, right? Very few people. Sam Altman was actively, vouching, saying that we can't trust this level of power with every other company. We want to be with the US Senate, and we want to kind of regulate this so that no other player comes in, right? They had their investment. And in spite of that, the company that we all hate, we all love to hate, Facebook, Meta, they open source this, right? And as soon as they open source it, there are like 20 different variants of it. Hugging Face just started populating all of their, things with different things. Mistral came into being. Mistral, a French startup, 10 people, two of which were from Meta, right? And they started open sourcing their 7 billion parameter model, right? And they had a 70 billion bigger model also. Um, so what is happening is there's this proliferation of this thing. ChatGPT, OpenAI would have been the only company in the lead because they would have the only GPU engineers who would accelerate this LLM. And if you watched closely, ChatGPT was quite slow in the beginning, right? It was typing out like a few words per second. Now it's like blazing fast. And that has reached every other open source LLM because the whole community was now working on it. They were accelerating different levels of hardware. So now we have different hardware companies, right? Chip manufacturers, accelerators, platforms, thousand other companies like Replicate and Together AI, which are providing inference for you for free, right? So you can start a startup that is not linked with OpenAI using open source LLM, but you don't have the money to run your own GPUs. You can pay it for the word that you're using, and for $1 you can get 1 million tokens out, right? So it'll easily serve a few customers over day. So open source is what I think accelerated all of this, and it started with Llama, and now I think a ton of people, including if you look at projects like LLVM, and I'm sorry, not LLM, VLLM, and all of those things, yeah, and what is it, Olama, all of those things are built to actually accelerate and then put this into serving, and they're all open sourced. There is also open source benchmarks which will compare independently different LLMs so that you don't have to do it, right? Everybody who visits their websites will have, can type in a question and it'll have two different LLMs answering. You won't know which one, and you can vote for the better response. And in the end, it'll tell you which one was better. And it'll do this for, thousands and thousands of people, and then figure out, it'll show you which is out of all of these things for science-based questions. If you're using it in your product, this is the thing. So a lot of it is essentially free, and a lot of it is running on open source hardware. And open source is what kind of led to this being such a big movement that everybody's using this for. Yeah.
Just to add to that, I am seeing a slightly different trend in the research side of it. Those of the countries who were strongly recommending open research, where you are sharing your research ideas, the various steps you are following in research, and the research data and everything to be out in the open. Now they are getting into opening their ideas to outcomes only to those who will collaborate with them. So it's not going to be open, but it is open only to a few people. So US and Canada, they both are open to each other, but they are not open to China. And China obviously will not be open to US and Canada. So it's not just the scientific community or people who are enthusiastic about the technology. There is going to be a geopolitical angle to it, and we need to be aware of it. And we also need to know where the data is stored, where our ideas are being stored. And we don't have the right policies, and we were talking about it before our conversation, right? So a lot more complexities await. I think
what data they are used for building that model, that is hidden from our end, right? So the unethical part is also there behind the scene.
Yep.
So there are unethical activities going around. Even he mentioned that the dark web is earlier we seen that all the illegal activities are happened in the dark website. Now they build models to do these activities. So we are not aware about it. We are directly using that model somewhere from the internet. So we are expecting that that model is built using the proper data, but we are not aware about that. What data they have used, what information they have collected from there. Even OpenAI,
yeah.
they mentioned they have built Sora. In an interview, they mentioned that what data they have used. If the data is publicly available, they are fetching it. But we are not aware about whether our personal information they have used or not. Even prior, there was a case happened in US that a software engineer in Google who who was arrested by the police because he collected personal information from the end user. Okay, we are all using Android mobile phones, so the data from our phone are they are using it, right?
Yeah.
But we are not aware about that.
Yeah.
We're still speaking about open source. We are using Android mobile, but we are saying that we are safe, right? But they are the Android devices held by the company, corporate company like Google. We are still focusing on open source. But open source is not an alternative solution. Free software is an alternative solution that I acknowledge, but open source is not always a proper solution I see. Like even the company has agenda, so they promote open source. Even I work on a company. We build product we build all the models in open source pattern, but we have our own agenda. We need that, and we need to build a product, and we have a business ideas as well, right? So we need to build the product in a business purpose only. So we have our own agenda as well. So every company has, even OpenAI is there. Microsoft is supporting that entire organization. That's everyone knows that. It's a hidden truth. So in order to challenge the company, other companies are comes into play like a Facebook or even Google, but they are not able to beat them till now. But even academic or institutions are there, but they are not able to contribute in that particular case as well.
Yeah, I
So
think
that's
we'll conclude with that point that everybody has an agenda. Yes, not just limited to AI. We need to conclude because Sir needs to leave. So thank you for patient listening, and all the panelists, thank you for joining for the discussion. And yeah, thank you. Thank you a lot. Thanks for that. Sure. Bye, ma'am. I think we'll conclude with that. Thanks, Vijay. We're done?
That was an excellent discussion, and I would like to thank all the panelists and the moderator for the wonderful insights you have shared with us today on the topic AI-based entrepreneurship. Thank you, sir. Thank you. There is a small token of love from our side, so we are waiting for our director Sunil sir to come and give you the gift. Now I invite Dr. Brijesh Madhavan sir to receive the token of love from our director, Dr. Sunil Titi. Now I invite Mr. Muthumanikkavel Saminathan sir, leads data scientist, Cognizant UK, to receive the gift. Now I invite Ms. Geeta Polmani, founder of Vishwavidya IT Solutions, Tamil Nadu, for receiving the gift. Now I invite Mr. Niaz Mohammed, co-founder Neural Craft, to receive the gift. Now I invite the moderator of our session, Dr. C. Jayashankar Prasad Sir, Director DCMAT, to receive the gift. Thank you all. Now it's the time for the tea break. You can go to the pantry for the tea.